God exalted him. God lifted him and set him on high. And so it is, as long as we decide and determine to endure whatever we are going through and to hold on to God, he will help us to be who he wants us to be. We looked at Naomi. Our Naomi, because of famine, is Naomi, her husband, and 2 children, went to the land of Moab and such forth. And how she lost her husband, she lost her 2 boys, and finally she lost also one of her daughter-in-law who chose to go back. But Ruth, her daughter-in-law, the other daughter-in-law, saw something in her that drove her to know God. In fact, when Naomi told them that they should go back because she's not able to produce a male child so that they could have married him and such forth, Ruth said, "Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee, for where thou goest I will go, and where thou lodgest I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God." So Ruth was indeed a spiritual figure, and we know that Ruth was the great grandmother of David, and then Jesus came through that lineage as well. All right, so right there we know that God has provided himself a human being who could be at a place he wants her to be, so that she could become part of this great salvation story. Okay, and then we dealt with Esther's days of stress. The struggle, the testing, the trials that Esther had to go through. Her parent died, and she was taken care of. She had to conceal her identity. She was chosen to be queen, for wife to the king, and somehow she still had to conceal her identity because of fear for whatever situation it was. But in the end, we know what transpired. What Haman wanted to do. Wanted to kill off all the Jews, and then eventually, through prayer and fasting, she gained the courage. She gained the courage so that she could have gone into the king, not being called at the time, so that she could have saved her people. All right. She said, "If I perish, I perish." She decided, "If I perish, I perish. I am going in." And so it is again. We, through our stress, through our adversities, through our struggles and pressure that we go under, we are able to go through them because of the indwelling Christ, the Christ that dwells in us. We learned about the secret of being content, the secret of being content. Paul, through all his suffering, through all his shipwreck and his beating, and you name them, you list them, as is recorded in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, 23 to 28. Finally, in Philippians 4 verse 11 through 13, he says, "I know how to be content." I know how to deal with things. If there is any thing that can teach me a lesson, it's through my suffering, through my pains, through my trials, through my tribulation. And then he says, finally, "I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me." And that's the encouragement I have for you today. We can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. And finally, for further study, the powers of darkness. This is a quote from God's Amazing Grace by E.G. White, page 114. "The powers of darkness gather about the soul and shut Jesus from our sight. And at times we can only wait in sorrow and amazement until the cloud pass over. These seasons are sometimes terrible. Hope seems to fail, and despair seizes upon us. In these dreadful hours, we must learn to trust. We must learn to depend solely upon the merits of the atonement, and in all our helpless unworthiness, cast ourselves upon the merit of the crucified and the risen Savior. We shall never perish while we do this. Never. When light shines on our pathway, it is no great things to be strong in the strength of grace. but to wait patiently in hope. When clouds envelops us and all is dark, requires faith and submission, which causes our will to be swallowed up in the will of God. We are too quickly discouraged. Yes, we are too quickly discouraged and earnestly cry for the trial to be removed from us, when we should plead for patience to endure and grace to overcome. Yes, that's what we should pray for. Again, I want to read this statement and hope that you will find comfort and strength in it. The powers of darkness gathered about the soul and shut Jesus from our sight. And at times we can only wait in sorrow and amazement until the cloud passes over. These seasons are sometimes terrible. Hope seems to fail and despair seizes upon us. In these dreadful hours, we must learn to trust, to depend solely upon the merits of the atonement, and in all our helpless unworthiness, cast ourselves upon the merits of the crucified and the risen Savior. We shall never perish while we do this. Never. When light shines on our pathway, it is no great thing to be strong in the strength of grace, but to wait patiently in hope when clouds envelop us and all is dark despair, or when all is dark required, faith and submission, which causes our will to be swallowed up in the will of God. I want to read that statement again. But to wait patiently in hope when clouds envelope us and all is dark requires faith. Right? So, but to wait patiently in hope when clouds envelop us and all is dark. It requires faith and submission, which causes our will to be swallowed up in the will of God. No wonder Jesus Christ prayed, Father, take this cup from me, and nevertheless not my will, but thy will be done. We are too quickly discouraged, brethren, friends, listeners out there in cyber world, viewers in cyber world. We are too easily discouraged and earnestly cry for the trial to be removed from us, when we should plead for patience